Hello there, everybody. If you're like most people, you've probably had moments in your life where you weren't sure how to make enough time to do the things in your life that you either wanted to do or knew you needed to do, or really just trying to figure out how do you jam all of the busy things that go on in your life into a single day with only 24 hours. Sometimes it can seem impossible. Sometimes it can seem like you're never going to be able to make progress in the areas where you would like to, whether that's to generate more income for your life. Perhaps you want to learn new skills, which also ties into being able to have more income. And then if you think about why do we even earn income, tends to be so that we can have access to different things in our life, whether that's access to different material goods or status symbols that allow us to connect with individuals that we would really like to be connected to. So I'm going to be showing you a little tip that I came across probably 5, 6 years ago. And I was working with a life coach at the time, and he asked me a question which I felt was very important for me to think about and answer. He said, "What do you do with your time?" And this prompted because I was talking to him about feeling this sense that I didn't know what to focus my energy on. I wasn't sure how to accomplish the goals that I was setting after, which at the time seemed very lofty and kind of out of reach. So he helped me to think about things in a little bit different sense when it came to time. So if we break down the fact that one day has 24 hours and one week has 168 hours, then we can start to understand there's somewhat of a framework that we can build a system for ourselves. And if we follow that system, or at least understand what that system looks like, we are going to be able to give ourselves the ability to make time for the things that we know that we need to be doing if we want to experience things we want to experience or achieve certain goals. So the video here, I'm just going to be using this time tracker template that I've created in Google Sheets. You can do this exercise in many different ways. I like technology, so I created mine on Google Sheets a while back, and I've also tried it in different methods. But let me walk you through the process of how to make more time for yourself. The number one thing I would say to do is make a list of all the things that are non-negotiable for your life. And here you can think about this list as having categories. And I've got an example here. There's social, professional, health, wellness, learning, family, nature, sleep, right? These are things that more or less you can't escape having to do them. In combination with, these are also things that you need for yourself to stay happy or alive, however you want to put it. So the categories can more or less be created however you want them to be. But the idea here is to create a category that then, when you expand that category, has individual activities that you would be doing that are associated with this category. So for example, if I know one aspect of my life that is necessary is a socialization aspect, then I could think about what are the areas that I have to do in order to achieve that category activity throughout my day. And I have an example here of, let's say I know I spend time on TikTok or Instagram or Facebook or any of the social media platforms. I do that on a regular basis. And if I feel that that's something that I need to be doing because it just makes me feel good or it has some sort of purpose, then I will keep that on my list as an activity that's now going to have a dedicated time amount in each one of my days. Also, another aspect would be socializing with friends. So if you go out to have drinks with friends each week, and maybe it changes which day it is, but each week you're going to be doing this, then it's probably a habit that is something that you want to keep up if it makes you happy. So you can go through this whole process here and really just start to think about all of the categories that you've created, and then come up with some activities that you know you've got to be doing in order for yourself to feel like you're living a fulfilled life. So from a professional aspect, and keep in mind that around the time I was understanding how to develop myself and to become a higher level, if I would say for myself, I was working lots of jobs. One example was there was a time period in my life where I was working 2 jobs, a security guard and working at a yogurt shop. And at a couple of times I was working 3 jobs at a time, but these were things that I had to do in order to make money to survive. We have to pay rent, we have to pay for food, insurance for your car, gas, all of these things. So I had a life that was jam-packed with needing to work a lot and constantly having to do a lot of things. And I was Not going to let myself be stopped by this as an excuse so that I could get away from having to do that forever. And that's something to keep in mind, is that your life, how it is right now, may not be what you necessarily want for it to be, but the sooner you can appreciate what you have now and think of it in a different perspective, one that's going to be serving you to take the steps necessary to get into the next stage of your life, you're going to have a lot better time. One, from an experiential standpoint, you're going to enjoy yourself more because you're going to know that what you're going through is temporary and helping build you into the person that you believe you are. So go through your list of wherever you're at today. Doesn't matter what you do. It could do anything here. But the idea is to create a list with some categories. Within each category, have some activities that you know that you already do, and put everything you already know that you do. Because once you create this list, you can actually decide what you want to take out of your list. If you're trying to be an intentional person, you'll realize which ones stand out to you as things that are probably a waste of your time from your own perspective. And it's important not to let other people tell you what's a waste of your time. I think it's helpful to hear other people's opinions, but ultimately I think each one of us knows what we want to be doing in life and what makes us happy and fulfilled. So make your list, create the things that you want to be doing on a regular basis, and have those as your staples. So for this example here, we've got this staple list. Now, the next part is where we start to create a sense of how much time can we give to each one of these items. So I'll come to my week 1 tab, and here I've got an example of a week that's been filled out already. So I've got my Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We got the 7 days of the week as the columns. And then we have for our rows, our categories and our activities. So we can see here, the first step we'll want to do is look at our categories and our activities and think, how much time each day do I want to give myself to do those things? So if I want to give myself a limit of having 2 hours per day on a social activity, then I'll put a 2 here. If I want to be realistic with the fact that I've got 2 jobs, and let's say on average I might be working 10.5 hours a day, then I would put that number here. For the health and wellness, which could be breakfast, lunch, dinner, my workouts, let's say on average I'll spend around 3 hours per day. For learning, because I think it's always important to continue learning, let's say I'm trying to learn some business skills so I can get away from having to have 2 jobs, then I'll give myself a daily activity limit of about half an hour. That would be a good pace to learn some stuff. Say family is important to me, and every day I want to be able to at least spend 30 minutes calling, maybe texting, or hanging out with one of my family members. If that's important, make sure that you have that captured here as well. And let's say nature is very important for you, and here's a cool way to trick yourself or accommodate yourself, is if you have a dog, you can combine these 2 activities. You want to walk your dog in the park, which can count as your nature time, and also taking care of one of your habits or responsibilities as a dog owner. The last one is, of course, a staple. Everybody's got to sleep. Not everyone sleeps the same amount. Not everyone's able to have the opportunity to sleep as much as others. And not everybody needs to sleep the same amount. So whatever it is for you that you think on a daily basis is your normal, go ahead and put that in here. And by the end of entering the numbers for each of the categories, at the bottom here, you'll see there's a total hours calculated for you. If you're doing this on paper, it's the same concept. You want to add all of your numbers up and make sure that they equal 24 hours. Now, what this is doing is telling you that all 24 hours of your day have been dedicated or allocated to a specific activity. And that's really empowering for you to understand where your time's going. So that question of how can I get more time or make time to do things starts to fade away, because you realize, well, you're operating within 24 hours just the same as every other highly successful person in the world. And that allows you to just create a system, create a kind of a program or a plan for yourself that lets you visualize where your time is going. So that if you ask the question, where is my time going, or how can I get more time? Now you should feel more equipped with the ability to answer that question. And let's say you realize after calculating your numbers, I don't like this. I want to adjust things. So you can go ahead and just start adjusting numbers, places, and chopping out things that maybe you don't want to do on a regular basis. And I'll pause here to mention that this isn't something that you probably would want to do every day of your life, because it's a little neurotic and a little too crazy to be thinking about going about your life in this kind of spreadsheet format where you're constantly tracking everything you do. It's not sustainable, in my opinion, and it's not really enjoyable. But I think the purpose of this exercise is to try to do this for a few weeks, just so you can get a sense of where your time goes. At the end of this, I would like to call challenge, you will then see how you spend your time and recognize some habits within you that then you can decide how you want to go about adjusting those or accepting them. So once you've come up with this number, now throughout your week, each day you go through, maybe once a day, maybe it's throughout the day. It should take you only a couple seconds or a couple minutes, depending on your ability to use technology. And you're just going to go ahead and input that number for the day. I would like to do this at the end of the day for myself, because it's, when I'm getting in bed and kind of just calculating what I went through in the day. So luckily, if you have phones nowadays, they have the ability to tell you how much time you spend on your social apps. But if not, then you can also just give an estimate. It doesn't have to be super exact. We're not trying to create some sort of a scientific report here. We're just trying to get a sense of where you're at in your life. So you go ahead and just put in your hours on all your activity cells. How many hours did you work today at the security job? I only worked 10 hours. Maybe I didn't work at the yogurt shop today, so I'll put 0 there. Right, so you go through all of these for each day, add in your numbers. And at the bottom, the goal here is to try to get 24 for all of the cells. So in this example, you can see most of mine have missing hours. Just means that I didn't track everything that I did on this sheet, which is completely fine. There's no need to be extremely neurotic where it has to equal 24, but it gives you a sense of how much time am I not paying attention to? Because being an intentional person requires you to have attention being paid. And you've got to look where your attention is going so that you can start to understand what are you doing in your life, which again is just being intentional. So by doing this, you'll track and you'll see, okay, there's some hours this day is a few hours. It could be commuting, right? If you think commuting is part of your daily routine, then add that on the list here so you can factor that in. And then when you have an idea, you can give yourself the realistic kind of check that, do you even have the time to be able to do that? So after completing this whole week, now we can see at the end here, how do we fare against what we planned or what we set forth to do? So at the top, we're going to see that there's 168 hours in a week. We're going to see here at this bottom cell that I have tracked 155.7 hours for this week, and that gives me a score of 93%. Pretty good, to be honest. But the cool thing about this sheet is that you're going to be able to see where did you go over on the times that you allotted, because it's going to be natural to think that you want to put 2 hours per day for social, but the reality is you might have gone over. So here I can quickly see, okay, over 100% means I went over what I set out to be my limits. So I spend more time on social media or in social category than I thought I would. There's nothing wrong with that. It just means that now I've seen what I'm actually doing. I now can make a decision, do I want to adjust my next week to have more time for social, or do I want to be more intentional and avoid doing as much social because it maybe isn't going towards what I'm trying to achieve? So we look at these percentages, these numbers, and it's just a very simple way, if your mind works like mine or similar to it, you'll be able to understand what is kind of necessary for you. And as you continue and do it for each week, you'll start to see your progress. You'll see this is what it looks like to have a blank sheet. You'll type in all the options that you have, all the numbers for the days. And at the very end of this, now you've got a summary. And this is looking at it from a weekly perspective. So in this example here, we've got 2 weeks been filled out so far. And the great thing about it is the score is about 45%, which is half of the 4-week challenge here. So I'm doing pretty good here tracking things and pretty much on point as far as making my time intentionally spent. So if you want to get this sheet, please feel free to download it. I should have a link in the description here. As always, I'm going to be here creating videos, trying to give people tips on how to empower themselves in their lives. I think some of the most profound experiences I've had in life have all come from self-development, which have allowed me to move away from mental health issues, whether it's anxiety or depression. It's allowed me to develop my confidence, my self-esteem. It has improved my relationships, both in the professional and the personal space. And it's really allowed me to feel like I'm living a life with purpose and intention so that I can start to envision where I'm going and be there now. And ultimately, that's what this YouTube is now. It's a new stage in my life where I'm starting to create videos and share with people the things that have helped me excel in my life. And I hope that it helps some people. So until the next video, bye now.